So I'm adding this intro to a video that's going to be starting really soon. I recorded the video earlier. I made a mistake in the video and I just wanted to clarify. It still makes sense to what I'm talking about, but I was wrong in what I said. So the video will be starting here in a second. I just wanted to clarify. So I'm talking about the movie Field of Dreams, and I said that the game that he takes Terrence Mann to is the Red Sox versus the Dodgers. It is not the Red Sox versus the Dodgers, it's the Red Sox versus the Oakland A's. But I misread it, is what happened. So it says that Terrence Mann's had a dream of playing with the Brooklyn Dodgers, but he takes him to Fenway Park or whatever. And also in the beginning of the movie, Kevin Costner says that his dad loves the Yankees and he loved the Brooklyn Dodgers. So there's definitely a Brooklyn Dodgers connection in the movie, and that's what I mentioned later on in the video. I just wanted to clarify he didn't really take him to the game, the Brooklyn Dodgers versus the Red Sox, but it's still connected to Brooklyn, and it's even funnier that they are playing the Oakland Athletics because I talk about this movie predicting the same city World Series in 1989, the Earthquake World Series where the Oakland Athletics won the World Series, and then the Red Sox are playing this team. I mean, absolutely ridiculous. So, whatever. Here's the video that I made earlier. Like I said, just adding a part to it. So in this video, I'm just going to put out a whole bunch of information. I've been talking about all of these interrelated stories. I'll leave some links in the description so you know a little bit more of what I'm talking about. But it really seems that with this story, everything that I've been talking about, it all comes together, but I'm just releasing the information because I don't exactly know how it all completely fits together. There's definitely something super significant about the movie Field of Dreams and how it's connected to Chicago. It's also connected to Boston. It's connected to Minnesota. And over the last few days, we got the three interrelated stories that all connected back to the Boston Marathon. So, I don't have all the answers. I would love people to help me out. Some of the stuff I'm going to talk about in regards to movies, I've never even seen the movie. So, and I really don't feel like watching it. It's an old 60s movie. Maybe somebody has seen it and they know a lot more about it and could possibly figure out how it's connected. So anyway, let's talk about this guy right here. We just got this headline on CNN earlier today, captured. And just like I thought, it was just like the Boston Marathon where it happened and then it was days later when they finally catch the person. But they caught him today. And, the caption or the headline is called Captured. And in Gematria, that equals 88. 88 has been a special number in regards to a lot of stuff that I've talked about previously. It seems like 88 seems to show up around satanic ritual type stuff. In Oklahoma a while back, they had the Church of Satan or something like that, and they only sold 88 tickets. In the newest Paranormal Activity movie, they open a portal and they go back to 1988. Also, there's a lot to do with time travel in regards to 88. That's why the DeLorean goes 88 miles per hour. And Back to the Future seems to be a super coded movie to a lot of stuff that is going on. There's lots of royalty coding going on as well. If you write out Prince Charles, it equals 131. In Back to the Future 3, they go back 131 years ago from 2016. And train number 131 pushes the DeLorean back to 1985. Anyway, in regards to that, we also got the story about finding the bombs in Elizabeth, New Jersey. Elizabeth in Gematria equals 88. Think about Prince Charles's mother, Queen Elizabeth. The word Trump in Gematria equals 88. Hillary Clinton even had a book a few years ago called Hard Choices. In that book, it had 88 choices. The movie Back to the Future even begins on October 26, 1985, which just so happened to be Hillary Clinton's 38th birthday. So moving on, I just want to point out some significant stuff in regards to 88. This headline says captured. Also, the 5K race that was supposedly had the bomb in the trash can in Seaside Park, New Jersey, that equals 88 in Gematria. In regards to Field of Dreams is about the 1919 Black Sox scandal, and he's bringing back Shoeless Joe Jackson and eventually brings back his father. And just the other night, I talked about all of the 88 stuff in regards to the Chicago Cubs and the Curse of the Billy Goat. Curse of the Billy Goat equals 88. The Steve Bartman incident happened when the Cubs were in their 88th season at Wrigley. They won 88 games that year. After the Steve Bartman incident, the Marlins scored 8 runs in the 8th inning. Of course, the Marlins connect back to the Future. But also, in regards to the Black Sox scandal, the White Sox didn't win for 88 seasons until they won the World Series in 2005. And think about the Black Sox scandal. It was 8 men out, and, they threw the games or whatever, and then they lost in the 8th game of the World Series, a lot like in 88. They even had 88 wins that season. And the reason I bring this back up is because I made a video in regards to the earthquake that happened on September 3rd, and how it was super interrelated in regards to the Nebraska Cornhuskers, Teddy Bridgewater getting injured, Sam Bradford coming there. I also talked about how it's connected to the 1989 World Series, and that World Series was the one that had the earthquake in it on October 17th. The earthquake on September 3rd happened 44 days before the anniversary of that earthquake. If you write out the word earthquake, it equals 44. And I also mentioned how it's connected to the movie Field of Dreams, because the movie Field of Dreams came out in 1989 on Queen Elizabeth's birthday. And when he goes to the Red Sox game, the Red Sox versus the Dodgers, he finds out that he has to go get Moonlight Graham, and they show the 1922. And in 1922, the New York Giants were in the World Series. It was a Subway Series. In 1989, it was also a Same Town World Series. The New York Giants turned into the San Francisco Giants, the team who lost in the 1989 World Series to the Oakland Athletics. If you write out Kevin Costner in Gematria, Kevin Costner equals 155 and 56. If you write out Oakland Athletics, it equals 105 and 56. And they were the team that won in 1989, the same year that Field of Dreams came out. It was also the first World Series sweep since the year 1956. And the earthquake we got on September 3rd was a 5.6. It matched the biggest earthquake on record in Oklahoma, where Sam Bradford's from. And we got the news of Sam Bradford going to the Vikings that very same day. A ton more stuff in regards to it. Even if you write out James Earl Jones in Gematria, his name equals 147, just like World Series. So anyway, I'll come back to some of this. I just wanted to bring in a little intro of what I'm talking about and why I'm talking about it. So, we get the story of this guy, and we find out his name now. His name, Ahmad Khan Rahami, equals 111 in Gematria. New York equals 111 in Gematria. Think about the two stories. We got New Jersey and New York. September 11th also happened on the day that leaves 111 days in the year. Queen Elizabeth was born on the 111th day of the year. Remember last year in the World Series, the 111th World Series, the World Series even came to an end on 11/1. The Mets, if you write out New York Mets, it equals 168. If you write out Queen Elizabeth II, it equals 168. The Mets play in Queens. Even Matt Harvey wouldn't come out of the game, and he finally came out after 111 pitches, and that's pretty much why the Mets lost the World Series. But that game started on November 1st, and it actually went late, so it went past midnight, so it actually came to an end on 11/2. And this year we're in a leap year, and so her birthday was on the 112th day of the year. It was also the same day that we got the death of Prince. There has been all kinds of 112 throughout sports, throughout the media, and 112 seems like it's not a positive number. LSU even lost their first game of the season, and they were going into their 112th season. Their coach had 112 wins. The Nebraska punter who died, Sam Foltz, his name equals 112. He died 1 month, 12 days before Nebraska's first game. Even clear back in the NBA Finals, or the NBA season, Steph Curry got hurt against the Houston Rockets. Houston equals 112. Stephen Wardell Curry, whatever it is, the second or third equals 112. He got injured when the score was 56-56, 112. Andre Iguodala fell down just before he did. Andre Iguodala equals 112. And in regards to Prince, LeBron James last year for Halloween dressed as Prince for Halloween. And Kevin Love went as Jackie Moon from the movie Semi-Pro, and Prince died on the night of a full moon. I even talked about how I thought the Cavaliers were going to be in the finals on November 4th last year. I stuck with my Warriors pick, even though pretty much all of these signs showed that the Cavaliers were going to win, but, you know, whatever. I knew the two teams that were going to be in the finals, I just got the finals wrong. And a lot of that started because on November 2nd, LeBron James shot 9 of 19 on November 2nd, and then 2 days later, he shot 9 of 23. And in the World Series, the power went out in Game 1 at 9:19 p.m. and came back on at 9:23 p.m. And 9:19 and 9:23 were super significant in regards to Pope Francis's visit to the United States that began on 9:19 last year. And then he went to the White House at 9:23 in the morning. On 9:23, he came to America on his 923rd day as Pope. So, you know, sorry to get off topic. I just wanted to throw a lot of that out there. There's something very special with the 112. We're going into the 112th World Series. Super Bowl 51 is being played in Houston. Houston equals 112. When I think back on it, it makes me wonder why LeBron James didn't have a bad season in regards to shooting 9 of 19 on 11/2. But he also did shoot 9 of 23 211 days before the finals began. So the opposite of 112. Maybe that had something to do with it. So anyway, moving on though. So in regards to satanic rituals and the number 88, I've also mentioned the story about the boy getting ate by the alligator and how that was super connected to the town that I live in. And I also found out that I think it's super connected to the town of Erling, Iowa, that is 13 miles away from where I live. It is actually where the most famous exorcism took place, and it's the movie and the book are partially based off of it. There's a whole lot more to explain with the boy from the alligator stuff. I'll leave a link in the description for that. But it was all about my life. I'm not even joking. It happened in Lake Buena Vista, Florida. I went to college at Buena Vista University. If you read out Erling, Iowa, it equals 114. If you read out Buena Vista, it equals 114. The town that I live in is the exact halfway point from the college to where that kid is from in Elkhorn, Nebraska. It said that I live 1 hour, 14 minutes away on Google Maps. Just a whole lot of stuff going on with that story. Anyway, in regards to 88, that exorcism took place. It was 3 different sessions, and it took place on August 18th was the first session that it started, and that was 88 years ago in 1928. So just interesting, one of the first famous exorcism in the United States took place 88 years ago, and I'm telling you, 88 is something to do with satanic rituals. Another thing that's super significant in this story is that this one is all super connected back to the Boston Marathon, right? And the girl that was exorcised 2 different times, but she was originally from Marathon, Wisconsin, and also the priest Theophilus Reisinger was also from Marathon, Wisconsin, and they thought it would be a good idea to send her to Erling, Iowa, because he knew the priest or whatever. But anyway, Erling, Iowa, at one point was even called Marthon, Iowa, and they changed the name to Erling because there was already a Marathon, Iowa. So just very interesting in regards to this story about the Boston Marathon, and then literally this 88 years ago, Erling, Iowa, connected to Marathon, Wisconsin, Marathon, Iowa. And I said I think the reason that it's super connected to that is because a marathon is 26 miles, and the word God equals 26. Also, the town is located on 41 degrees north, 95 degrees west, just like the town that I live in. If you write out the word alligator, it equals 41 and 95. If you write out Peter Pan, and think about it in regards to Disney World, Peter Pan equals 41 and 95. Neverland equals 41 and 95. The boy who got ate by the alligator, his name equals 41 the small way. So anyway, moving on, just wanted to bring a lot of this back up. Like I'm saying, I don't have it put together. It's just a lot of things that really interest me within this story. We also got this guy being interviewed on one of the CNN things, and you can't really see it, but he's totally wearing the pyramid with the all-seeing eyes shirt. If you zoom in on it, you can totally tell. It's just kind of funny. And they're just standing in the rain giving an interview. Like, I don't know. Seems like you would just go inside, but who knows. We also got this right here. This is where they caught the guy. And there's the green beetle bug in the background. And I've been talking a lot about how Herbie the love bug is super connected in the death of Dean Jones, the actor in the movie Herbie, and how it's connected to the Nebraska Cornhuskers. It's Herbie. Nebraska's mascot is Herbie Husker. Herbie is number 53 in the movie, and Nebraska equals 53 in Gematria. N equals 5, U equals 3, 53. A whole lot of other stuff in regards to 53. Even Chelsea equals 53 in Gematria. The other big place that this supposedly happened. If you write out green beetle in Gematria, it equals 53 as well. Just found that interesting. It is Volkswagen Beetle, so who knows. But I just went to Yahoo and I typed in green beetle and film. This movie came up right here. The movie's called Bullitt, Bullitt. It's from 1968. I really don't want to go back and watch this movie. It's just not my type of movie. Seems really old and cheesy, but what's interesting is that this movie came out on October 17th, 1968, and the 1989 World Series that had the earthquake, that earthquake happened on October 17th. I've also mentioned 68 a whole lot. 68 was a big year in regards to 9/11. Even the town I live in equals 68. Famous for killing the last keeper of the sacred pole of the Omaha Indians in the year 1868. Also, Barack Obama, Donald John Trump, Pope Francis, Prince Charles, all equal 68. Hillary Clinton right now is 68 years old. Anyway, if you go and watch, there's a clip on YouTube. Supposedly there's a big chase scene at the end of the movie. It is kind of funny when you watch it because there's this green beetle and they pass it and then it goes to a different scene and then they come by it again. And the joke is that the green beetle's just super fast. But it's definitely just a movie blooper. But it's just interesting. The green beetle, it's the only thing I could find when I thought of that. And it just reminds me of Herbie. So maybe somebody knows a lot more about that movie. It's just way before my time. The main guy in the movie is also named Steve McQueen. And just interesting, he died on 11/7. A huge, I've been mentioning 117 a whole lot. There's so much stuff connected to 117. The death of Muhammad Ali, he died from Parkinson's disease, it equals 117. He was born on January 17th. Talked about Dwayne Wade going to the Nebraska game on the day that leaves 117 days in the year. Dwayne Wade born on January 17th. Last year, Nebraska upset Michigan State on 11/7, the same weekend that Teddy Bridgewater got hurt against the Rams. This year, Teddy Bridgewater gets injured just before playing the Rams. Sam Bradford's old team. Last year when Teddy Bridgewater got hurt, he got hurt on Sam Bradford's birthday. Nebraska's in its 117th season being the Cornhuskers. Even Michelle Obama was born on January 17th. There's been a whole lot of symbolism with the 117. I think I actually talk about that later on in this blog as well. James Earl Jones was born on January 17th as well. I also thought it was interesting if you put the two suspects' names together from the Minnesota stabbing and whatnot, their names equal 108 and 171 in gematria. I've seen a lot of 171 in regards to the 117. It's the same numbers. English Civil War equals 171, which super fits in with Prince Charles. And I've mentioned 108 a lot to the Chicago Cubs and just Chicago in general. The Willis Tower is 108 stories tall. The Great Chicago Fire was on October 8th of the year 1871. The Cubs haven't won for 108 seasons. This year will be the 145th anniversary of the Great Chicago Fire. Chicago, Illinois equals 145. If you write out 145, it equals 108. Today was even 9/19 and 19 days before it. A lot of 19. And we had the Chicago Bears lose to the Philadelphia Eagles. Another interesting thing about the Philadelphia Eagles is their quarterback, Carson Wentz, is from North Dakota State, the team who just beat Iowa. Iowa Hawkeyes equal 145. Willy Wonka equals 145. We had the death of Kyle Callaway in July, the former Iowa Hawkeye player, who also played for the Buffalo Bills. And, Kyle Callaway equals 145. Iowa's first loss was to the North Dakota State Bison, and he used to be an ex-Buffalo Bill. I mean, just think about that. He even wore number 60, and they reported his death 60 days before Iowa's first game. I didn't even watch the whole game, though, so I need to go back and watch it. Possibly there was a tribute of some sort to what I'm talking about. But I did notice that one of the Chicago Bears players, I believe, his last name was Houston, and he got hurt. The other day when I was watching part of the Chiefs game, they mentioned how the Chiefs, one of their best defensive players, Justin Houston, was hurt. And of course, Houston upset Oklahoma, Sam Bradford's old team. LSU got upset by Wisconsin, their quarterback Bart Houston. The Earthquake series in 1989 was called the Bart series. So who knows? It's funny right here. This even looks like San Francisco. So, who knows? Also, if you take out the middle name, Ahmad, Rahami, and Dahir Adan, it equals 137 and 92. Of course, the 33rd prime, 137. So, oddly enough, as I was looking up stuff about this, for some reason, one of the things that popped up in my search was that the first sporting event that happened in US Bank Stadium, where the Minnesota Vikings play, it just so happened to be a soccer game, Chelsea versus AC Milan. Pretty crazy we have the Chelsea Manhattan story come out the same day as the Minnesota Mall stabbing. The next night we have the Vikings play the Packers. This game was even played on 8-3. The word football equals 83. The team Chelsea also won. They beat AC Milan. And interesting, they both have gematria of 26 and 53. And think about that in regards to marathon, 26. Also the 53 that I've been talking about. The word Pennsylvania also equals 53. And it seems like a lot of stuff goes back to Pennsylvania, where Philadelphia is, the beginning of the nation. I remember too, I think in the last video I said that Chelsea lost, but it was a tie, and that was the reason that Leicester City won the Premier League. Just interesting. It's all connected to that. I said there was something connected to it in the last video. I wasn't sure what it was. But where they play is Stamford Bridge. That's what it's called. And if you remember, Gene Wilder died in Stamford, Connecticut. It's also where Jackie Robinson died, fitting for the civil rights stuff. Also, Christopher Lloyd is also from Stamford, which, of course, I'm telling you, there's something big time with the movie Back to the Future. And look at this. I looked up the town of Stamford, Connecticut. It just so happened to be the place where the first ever marathon race was held in the United States. And it was held on today, September 19th of 1896. Oh, the odds, you know? What are the odds of that? The guy who won, John J. McDermott, he also won the first ever Boston Marathon. And remember, in regards to 117, the Boston Marathon that supposedly got bombed was the 117th edition. So anyway, this guy's name, John J. McDermott, equals 60 and 168. Remember in Minnesota, it was all about the 60. The perpetrator's name was equaled 60. Minnesota Mall Attack equals 60. St. Cloud, Minnesota equaled 60. Charlie St. Cloud equals 60. I talked about how it's connected to that movie in regards to the Red Sox and the Yankees as well. And the Red Sox and the Yankees just so happened to play each other on Saturday as well. This guy's name, the Big Way, equals 168, just like New York City, just like Queen Elizabeth II, New York Mets, like I mentioned in the beginning. And he also won the first ever Boston Marathon on 4/19 of 1897, which, interesting, 119 years ago. You know, all-seeing eye 119, Star of David 119. It's the backwards 911, 911. In regards to that exorcism story, 1896 was also the year that the girl in the story supposedly showed her first signs of being possessed. So just very interesting. Also, the priest in the story, he died on 11/9. The town of Erling was named after Albert J. Erling, and he was born on January 19th. So just some 119s. He even became the president of the railroad on 9/23, that big special day in regards to Pope Francis. But 9/23 also has a bunch of connections back to 9/11. For example, if you break down the date 9/11 of 2001, 9 stays 9. If you add 1 plus 1, it equals 2. And if you add 2 plus 0 plus 0, it equals 3. A lot like 9/23. Also, in military time, 2309 is the same as 1109. So, just interesting. Wanted to point a few of them out. It's also interesting that the second session of the exorcism began on September 13th of 1928, and it went until September 20th of 1928. So all of this stuff happened 88 years ago, you know, throughout this week or whatever. So just very interesting. I really feel like there's something super connected to that town and that story. And another crazy thing. So I looked up the famous people from Stamford, Connecticut, because it seems to be super connected. And I found J.D. Salinger, the Catcher in the Rye guy. It said he lived there briefly, but it's still very interesting because in the book Shoeless Joe that's based on the movie Field of Dreams, this guy is the guy who James Earl Jones portrays in the movie. So this guy is the real life guy in that movie, or in the book that James Earl Jones plays. And I'll explain that here in a second. So I also found Michael Bolton, the famous singer Michael Bolton, lived in North Stamford. And when you look up Michael Bolton, some interesting things. It says that he was even on Over the Rainbow, an album recorded in 5 days, and blah, 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 you know. Just interesting. Gene Wilder supposedly was listening to Somewhere Over the Rainbow when he died, and he's from Stamford, Connecticut as well. And it also says up here, Bolton's last top 40 single in the U.S. in his own right was the 1997 hit Go the Distance, featured in Disney animated motion picture Hercules. Go the Distance, does that not remind you of the movie Field of Dreams? Go the distance. And they go the distance, and they go to Minnesota. Also in that movie, the first time that they hear Go the Distance is when Kevin Costner's character takes James Earl Jones' character to the Red Sox versus the Dodgers. And just think about that. Possibly foreshadowing the World Series this year, possibly not. You know, I'm still trying to piece it all together, but the Red Sox all of a sudden have a whole bunch of stuff that seems to be foreshadowing them. They even got their 84th win of the season the other night when we got the trash can bombing stuff. Trash can equals 84. During the Boston bombing, they beat Tampa Bay that day, and their record became 8-4. So this is where I'm getting lost in the story here. There's tons of stuff going on. James Earl Jones, a super connected guy I've mentioned before, but in regards to the prince and the royalty stuff, you know, he's Mufasa. He's also Darth Vader, you know, pretty much the leader of the dark side other than the Emperor. He's even the king of Zamunda, I think that's what it's called in the movie Coming to America with Eddie Murphy. And I've never seen it, but it even says that he's Malcolm X in like a 1972 movie. Just everything that seems to be connected to what's going on in the media and all of the propaganda. And then, of course, we have the death of Prince that is super connected to everything. Prince from Minnesota. He dies on the night of a full moon, which is also the same day of Queen Elizabeth's birthday. Also the same day the movie Field of Dreams came out in 1989. And think about it in regards to them having to take Moonlight Graham to the baseball field in Iowa. Also, look at the scorecard here. You know, if you go to the third inning and you count down 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, there's the number 53 right here. 1989 was Queen Elizabeth's 37th year as being the queen. And I mean, just think about that in regards to all the 53 popping up. Seems like this might be some type of code that they're showing us, you know? And I'll mention it here in a little bit because 643 is connected to the town that I live in. Why an event would happen in this town would make no sense, but I don't know. I swear I'm supposed to see that for some odd reason. It's even, you know, down here, the sixth player, 2-6, or 6-2, the word queen equals 26 and 62 in Gematria. And, you know, the reason why it's connected to my town, I'll just say it. That is the phone code for the town that I live in. Like, my old phone number back when I had a real phone was 712-643 for the town, and then, you know, 2154 was my phone number. I mean, nobody has a real old phone anymore, it seems like. But just very interesting. These are numbers that have been implanted in my brain since growing up, because that was always, you know, you had to call people, you had to know 643. And in regards to all of this 117 stuff that I've mentioned, the number 643 just so happens to be the 117th prime number. I also lived in a town a few years ago. I lived in a town 10 miles away called Woodbine. Their phone number is 647, the 118th prime, which is interesting. I said James Earl Jones, born on January 17th, Kevin Costner, born on January 18th. You know, possibly nothing, but just interests me a lot. You know, this number has always been a part of me just from the town that I live in. And I'm telling you, for some weird reason, a lot of this stuff has been foreshadowed to where I live. One other interesting thing in regards to James Earl Jones is that in the movie The Sandlot, he's the blind guy who was the ex-baseball player who knew Babe Ruth, and he called him George. George equals 57. Prince died age 57. Moon equals 57. But in regards to that movie, he's the owner of the dog Hercules that basically the whole movie is based off of. And think about that in regards to Michael Bolton, who's also from Stamford, Connecticut, and he wrote the song Go the Distance for the movie Hercules. Michael Bolton in Gematria even equals 57. And in regards to baseball, World Series equals 57. So who knows? Just pretty interesting. The word Hercules equals 37. You know, I just talked about 37 years of Queen Elizabeth, and also 91, just like Chicago Cubs. So who knows? And just thinking about it, I never went back and looked. I don't know that much about the Battle of Marathon, where marathons come from. But now that I'm thinking about it, I wonder if Hercules had some part in that, you know? Anyway, so they get Go the Distance with Moonlight Graham. That's the first time they hear it, when he takes Terrence Mann to go see the Dodgers, and the Dodgers are playing the Red Sox. And they have to go to Chisholm, Minnesota to get Moonlight Graham. Chisholm, Minnesota in Gematria equals 197 and 80. Prince in Jewish Gematria equals 197. Moonlight Graham equals 80. Archibald Graham equals 80. King Charles III equals 80. You know, Prince Charles will become King Charles III if Queen Elizabeth dies. The guy who even plays the old version of Moonlight Graham in the movie even died at the age of 80. Interesting, too, that he died in 1994, the year of the baseball strike when there wasn't a World Series. And he was also born on 11/2, 112. Terrence Mann equals 112. Remember, Prince died on the 112th day. The Simpsons killed him off on 11/2. They killed him off with Neil Armstrong and George Clooney. Neil Armstrong, the first guy to walk on the moon. I talked about this before, but George Clooney in the movie Gravity as well. Not necessarily a moon theme, but something to do with space. And then, of course, James Earl Jones, like I mentioned, born on January 17th, Field of Dreams equals 117. 923 equals 117. In regards to Somewhere Over the Rainbow, Judy Garland died on January 17th. The Love Bug equals 117. There's just a big puzzle going on, and I cannot piece it completely together. So, you know, that's all I got. I just wanted to post this video. I'm just trying to figure out the puzzle, you know. It's something very big. It's hard to even wrap my brain around because it's involved in so many different interrelated things. But it all seems to come back to the same stuff that I've been talking about. You know, even the beetle bug. It's absolutely ridiculous. And then Marathon, that one really blows me away. Another thing in regards to 88, the guy is 28 years old. Ahmad Khan Rahami, 28. So depending on his actual birthday, he might have even been born in the year 88. And like I previously mentioned, it's interesting in regards to the Dodgers, and you got the Field of Dreams stuff showing the Dodgers versus the Red Sox. The Dodgers last won the World Series in 1988. And we also have Vin Scully, their longtime announcer, retiring at the end of the regular season, and he's age 88. Also, in regards to this exorcism that began on 8/1/8, you know, it looks like a lot like 81 and 8. And if you write out the word Dodgers, it equals 81 with the S exception. And the guy who wrote Shoeless Joe, who just died on September 16th, died at the age of 81. The Dodgers also beat the Yankees in the 1981 World Series. But if you write out the word 81, it also equals 108, the number connected to the Cubs. So, you know, I'm anxious to see what the regular season ends, like to see what the win-loss records of a lot of these teams are. I think that will be a better tell. I don't really watch baseball. I haven't watched one full game the whole season, except for the College World Series. So, I mean, I don't know. I'm just going by the media stories, and I'm going by, you know, just looking at their records and looking at some of the stories that are put out on ESPN and other places. But, you know, just lately they've been showing a lot of Red Sox stuff, or at least the Red Sox seem to be super connected to within the last week, all these recent events, just trying to figure out this puzzle. And honestly, it's way bigger than sports, but they do include sports. And for whatever the reason, sports always seem to show you what they're going to do in other events, so whatever, leaving it at that. Like I said, just wanted to post a bunch of information, and hopefully other people know some more stuff that I'm not seeing, especially with the old movie that I've never seen before. I really have no interest to watch it. Possibly I'll watch it just anyway, but whatever. Done rambling. Have a good one.